It's been a fair while since anyone has been talking about a new tablet release, if it's not the newest iPad Pro, and possibly for good reason. See, sales of tablets have been on the decline since late 2013, and while the market is hardly dead, they're still shipping tens of millions of units a year. It still does beg the question, should you be buying a new tablet? And if so, at what sort of price point? See, nowadays you don't have to shell out a load of your hard-earned cash when you can pick up something like this, the Vankyo S20, for around £125. So in this video, I want to answer those questions, but first, if you haven't already, consider subscribing for more videos like this one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So why buy a tablet at all? Well, the form factor makes it a really easy device to use around the house, while traveling, and wherever else you want to use it. Sure, you could use your phone, and many people do, but the larger display makes this a more pleasurable watching experience if you want to, say, chill in bed with some Netflix or some YouTube. It's also generally easier to browse the web on, and you can also use it as a pass-around picture frame to show those family photos to guests. They can also be easier to have those family video calls on, especially in this interesting times. And of course, speaking of families, they're also a great thing to hand to your kids to keep them occupied with some movies or games or YouTube Kids, for example, even for a little while. So why buy a cheap one like this then? Primarily, it's a worry-free experience. See, if you have kids, then you can hand them this instead of your $1,000 iPhone or iPad and not be so worried if they get their grubby fingerprints on it or it falls off a table. Also, if you're traveling, then this is a great thing for, again, worrying about if it gets lost or stolen. It's not the biggest deal in the world. And also if you want to give a device to your elderly grandparents so that they can stay in touch, this is also a great option too. It's also a really low barrier to entry. As a tech enthusiast, and I'm sure as many of my core audience would think as well, I don't really immediately care for having one of these around, but the fact that I have one around now, actually, I'm quite happy about that. Well, it is a fairly rare occasion that I could have a use case for it. Because of that relatively low barrier to entry, it means that it's not the hardest thing to justify just picking one up, so that for those rare occasions where you want to chill in bed or whatever else, or traveling for example, having something around can be useful. Now there are some downsides to going this cheap though. Build quality, while not terrible, also isn't fantastic, and neither are the internals. You're looking at what, in theory, is a fairly impressive spec sheet. I mean, it's an 8-core CPU, although it's more like 2 4-core CPUs that are strapped together. And it's also a Uni SoC CPU, which is basically a 3-year-old ARM chip with a fairly mediocre GPU. And the long story short of that is that the user experience can be a little sluggish, a little slow at times. You only have 3 GB of RAM, and my UK model has 64 gigs of internal storage with a microSD card slot on the top. The main place you'll notice it being slow is likely when loading web pages or loading YouTube videos. It just takes a second or two longer than it probably should, and while if this is just a hand it to your kid's device, they probably don't care that much, it is still something to note that it's not exactly the snappiest experience. Another area that suffers is the cameras. Now, they are still passable. It does have front and rear facing cameras, and surprisingly the rear one even has a flash next to it, but the quality isn't fantastic. So this is what the front facing camera and microphone sound like. I'll overlay some shots of the rear facing camera filming this nice graphics card that's here, but suffice to say, it's definitely basic. It's functional enough. I mean, especially if you are giving this to a, say, kid, for example, it's decent enough for them to video call with their friends, but also not fantastic either. While they are serviceable enough for keeping in touch with the relatives or, taking the occasional picture if you really needed to, you're not going to be shooting the next Hollywood blockbuster on it like you can on your phone. Also, the speakers fit into a fairly similar category. It's 2 bottom-firing or side-firing speakers depending on the orientation, and while they're not, again, the worst that I've ever heard, they're also not fantastic. One saving grace here is that it does have a headphone jack, so it's not the end of the world. One surprising thing they didn't skimp out on too hard was the display. Now it is only a 720p panel, which especially at this sort of size does mean that you can kind of see the pixels. It's not the crispest experience around, but it's an IPS panel, which means that colors and viewing angles are actually remarkably good. The content consumption experience, watching some Family Guy, for example, was actually a really nice overall experience, at least for the display side anyway, even if it's not the brightest I've ever seen. Battery life is also pretty good too. It's a 6,000 mAh unit inside, which Vankyo claim can do 10 hours of usage, although realistically on a moderate brightness you're probably going to get about 6, but that's still plenty for most long-haul flights, and even if it's not, it's got a USB Type-C port for charging, so you can keep it topped up as well. So should you buy one? Well, I'm certainly glad I have one around. It's a useful gadget that, at least at this price point, doesn't cost so much that I wouldn't consider picking one up even for the occasional use cases. While you do end up skimping out on a few of the more useful things like speakers and camera quality, it's still, again, a useful enough device that I'm reasonably happy enough to recommend it. Now with that said, maybe don't go for this exact model just because they seem to be running what is a fairly common Amazon review scam. They expressly told me in almost every email they sent me to not show you this card, which means that I needed to show you the card. Essentially how the scam works is that they give you a free gift if you leave a positive 5-star review. Well, the card itself says leave an honest review. It does also say 5 stars directly above it, and I'm fairly certain that if you left a 1-star review and then told them about it, you wouldn't be getting your free gift, so yeah. With that said, the product itself is good, even if the marketing behind it isn't. Now with all of that said, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Is a tablet right for you? And if so, is a cheap one? Or would you rather stick with your phone or laptop or desktop? And also let me know what you think of the Amazon reviews situation as well. With that said, if you want to check out, especially pricing when and where you watch this for the Vankyo S20, then I'm going to leave a link to it in the description down below. That will be an Amazon affiliate link that will take you to your local Amazon store where you can see all of that good stuff. Now, like I said at the start, if you want to see more videos like this one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, then do hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon. You can also check out the rest of the links in the description down below. There's stuff like merch or hoodies or t-shirts like this one, or a load of other cool designs. There's also stuff like Streamlabs OBS, so you want to start streaming. There's a couple of VPN options, and a load of other stuff too. You can also check out some more videos over there, maybe check out some of the phone reviews as well, and that is pretty much it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments down below, but otherwise, we'll see you all in the next video.